All right, welcome to Talkin' Investing. Today I want to do our daily Bitcoin and Bitcoin miner update. I'm doing this early today. I didn't get to it yesterday. And I wanted to talk about this because I am changing my short-term strategy a little bit. So this does not affect my long-term strategy, but I want to tell you guys I see what I think might be a little bit of an opportunity. So I'm going to make a minor change to my short-term strategy. We'll see how it works out. So I'm going to take a quick look at the Bitcoin miner big board. Then I want to take a look at the Bitcoin charts and tell you what I'm thinking. And then we'll talk about the miner change that I'm making in my strategy to potentially pick up a little bit of extra money along the way. Okay, so I'm going to start out on the Bitcoin miner big board, and I'm just going to spend a minute here because it's very early in the trading day, and this is likely to change substantially. It usually does every day. So at the moment, you'll see we're mostly green. When we get to the Bitcoin chart, you're going to see we're pretty sideways on the day as far as Bitcoin goes. The market is having a good day, so the miners seem to mostly be following along with the market at the moment. So a bunch of green, but no big swings in either direction. You'll see most of these things are up 1 or 2 or 3% at the most and down 1 or 2%. Digihost is down around 5.5%. That seems to be the worst performer on the day. Cypher is up 4%. That seems to be the best performer. So again, it's very early, but almost everything is pretty close to neutral, skewing towards green. Okay, so I'm going to start out on the 15-minute time frame here. This is Bitcoin on the 15-minute time frame, and as always, you will see an orange line, and that is where Bitcoin was when the equity markets closed in the US yesterday. So Bitcoin was at around $21,709. It's at $21,667 right now. So, I mean, it's literally within $50 of where it was when it closed yesterday. And you'll see we've been crawling along this orange line for quite some time. We did have a dip last night down to around 21,300, but again, that's still a very tight trading range from around 21,800 to 21,300. That's a $500 trading range in, pretty much the last 24 hours. So, okay, so here we have Bitcoin on the 4-hour time frame. Each one of these candles represents 4 hours. So you can see this was the 2-month run. I like to show this because I think it puts things in perspective as to where we are right now and where we may be going. This was the run that started in the middle of June and really went all the way through the middle of August. I think we peaked on August 15th. So that was 2 months of higher highs and higher lows. We traded very nicely inside of this ascending channel. Well, we left that channel on August 19th. We had a big drop. We crossed a couple very important lines of support. The first one was leaving this channel. So we crossed this ascending line of support, and then crossing this purple line right here means we set a lower low. So that is the first time in months that we had set a lower low. So that would tend to mean there's a reversal in the trend. So I still believe that that is true. However, I'm making a little bit of a modification because Bitcoin has been a little bit stronger over the last week than I expected. So it's possible that we're going to get a lot more sideways action than I thought we were going to. So I'm still of the same opinion. I still think that we're outside of that relief rally, and I do think there's more pressure to the downside than to the upside over the next short period of time, whether that's 30 to 60 days. However, we can have little runs up in the middle, and the trading range is very tight. I'm going to give a target to the upside right now, which I was not doing previously. We've talked about my downside targets, and I still think those are very much in play. Down here just under 20,000, and then down here just over 19,000. Those are my main 2 price targets that I think, in my opinion, those are still in play. Sometime in the next 30 days, I expect to hit one or both of those. I do think there's an outside chance we go all the way back down and revisit our lows. I don't think we're going any lower than that. Again, this is not financial advice. These are my opinions, but I have not changed any of these lines. I still think this makes sense over a 30 or 60 or 90-day window. However, based on what's happening right now, I'm looking at this purple line right here. This was that previous low that we broke through. So this was support, and I'm looking to see if we potentially test this as resistance. So from where we are right now, you'll see that's not a gigantic move, but that would be a 3.5 or 4% move to the upside. Okay, so this is the Bitcoin 4-hour RSI, and you're going to see we did bottom out back on August 19th. So we got basically all the way back down to where we were in the middle of June when that relief rally started. So we got down to about 14 on the daily RSI. That was just a tiny bit above where we got in June, but basically that is a full reset. There's two major points of resistance that Bitcoin has crossed over really basically in the last 24 hours. I think it's worth taking a second look and a closer look. The first one is we are now over 50 on the 4-hour RSI. And then the other thing is not only did we cross over 50, we broke through this line of resistance. So the path I was expecting to take was to bump into this line of resistance on our way down to one of these lines, the pink line at around 20,000 or the green line at around 19,200. There were some political events that occurred. There was a massive stimulus that was done by executive order, and I think that has had a short-term boost on the U.S. stock market and on the NASDAQ, and as a function of that, on Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners. So I don't know how long that's going to last, but we definitely do seem to be getting a bump out of that in the short term, and I'm not going to talk about the politics of it. I'm just going to talk about the investment side of it, and the investment side of it is there's no doubt we seem to be getting a bump over the last few days on this. So I don't know how long that will last, but if it continues, this purple line up here is at 22,460, so somewhere around 22,500. I think we have the potential for Bitcoin to run up before it bumps into some resistance. So the main thing that I'm going to be looking at in the next 24 hours, here's the first thing. We crossed 50. Do we stay over 50 on the RSI? And do we turn this into a line of support? If so, then we have the potential maybe to run up to oversold territory. And that is where we could take our run up to the upward price targets that I have. And again, that's around 22,500. So I'm not talking about gigantic moves, but I do think there's a little room to the upside before we start going down again. And let's just take a quick look at the one-day time frame. On June 18th, we got down to around 17,500. We did rally for 2 full months up to August 15th, where we got up to over $25,000. So, that was our relief rally. It was fantastic. It was over 40%. I think it was 43 or 44%. But we have broken to the downside. Now, since we broke to the downside, we did end up finding my first line of support. I called this my optimistic line of support back on August 19th. I thought that there was the potential that we could bounce off of this blue line at around $20,700. I called that my optimistic line. I don't think that was the bottom. I didn't think that was going to hold as support in the long term. However, we definitely have found some support there, and it's holding in the short term. So it remains to be seen. That could be the bottom for all we know. That's not what I'm expecting, but with Bitcoin, you just have to follow the charts, and sometimes you have to be flexible. So while that wasn't what I was expecting, it could end up being what happens. I'm still sticking to my overall plan where I do think we're going to hit a few lower lows, but there's no doubt we found some support and relief here at around 20,700. From our low to our high over the last 6 days, we've basically been trading within a 6% trading range, which is very tight. So I've drawn a little yellow line right here. You can see that is very sideways activity over the last 5 days. Now, today is a green candle, and we may break out of this little sideways activity. Again, that's the potential to get up to this purple line right here, somewhere under 22,500. Let me tell you the short-term change in strategy that I am having. So I am a buy and hold investor, so I am still holding all of my Bitcoin mining positions, the actual stock themselves. However, I have mentioned several times that I use options in the short term to try to make up for some money, especially in times where we're in a down cycle. So while we were in the relief rally, I was buying calls, and that strategy was working for me because we continued to move up, so there was money to be made on buying calls. Right now, with this sideways activity, we're trading in a tight range with a slight bias to the upside in the short term. So I'm considering selling covered calls. So if you guys don't know what any of this is, please do not participate in options. If you're not trained in this, if you're not well versed in this, study this, understand what I'm talking about. But basically, a covered call means I own the stock and I can sell a call on the stock that I own. There's very little risk in that. Of course, there's risk in everything that you do, but if you own a covered call, the risk is much smaller. So selling an uncovered call would be an extremely risky strategy. So I want everybody to be clear. That can be your own homework if you don't already know. I know a lot of you guys know, and a lot of you guys have already participated in a lot of this type of option activity and made a lot of money because you've said so in the comments and on the Discord. So for those of you who know, That's great. For those of you who don't, I would take some time to learn. Right now, all I'm talking about is with this sideways momentum that's slightly upward, I don't think we're about to have a gigantic break to the upside. It looks to me like we're having some sideways activity with a little bit of a bias to the upside. So as a result of that, selling covered calls is a way to make some extra money in this period that we go sideways. I will tell you very quickly what the risk is. If we have a massive move to the upside and I have sold a covered call, then that is going to limit the amount of money that I make. In the event there's a giant move to the upside, the money that I make will be capped and I will miss some of that opportunity. But there are times that strategy for an 8-month period of time from November basically through June of 2022, that was strategy that made people a lot of money and mitigated a lot of their losses as they were holding stocks. So we might be in a period like that right now. So that is the minor tweak that I'm making. So please, this is not financial advice. I'm not telling you guys to do that. So lastly, I'm just going to look at the RSI on the 1-day time frame. Okay, so the reason that I think there's still going to be some downward pressure and the reason I think we're going to head sideways with a slight bias to the upside is we never really reset the 1-day RSI. So you can see back in June, we reset this down at around 20. So somewhere between 20 and 25, I consider a reset on the 1-day RSI for Bitcoin. Well, we never got anywhere near that. We never really even got down to 30. Under 30 would be oversold. So because we've turned around and you can see now we're up quite a bit. We hit a low of 33 on the daily RSI several days ago. We're now at just under 43. So I would not at all be surprised to see this potentially run all the way up to 50 before it gets rejected. That's neutral. It looks to me like we're headed sideways with a little bit of an upward bias, and we could get all the way up to 50 before this resets and we start to test some of those lower numbers that I've been talking about. To me, we're sitting in a neutral zone, and when you're doing that, whether it's to the upside or to the downside, covered calls can be a strategy that you can use. So again, I'm not recommending that. Please do your own homework and your own due diligence, but that's the minor tweak that I'm making to my strategy. So I wanted to bring you guys in the loop and let you know what I'm doing. So I will definitely update this if anything major changes. And so if you made it this far, please remember to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. And thanks so much for watching. We will see you in the next video.